Officials say a Russian attack on a military training base in the western part of the country killed at least 35 people and wounded more than 130 others. More than 30 Russian cruise missiles targeted the International Peacekeeping and Security Center outside of Lviv Sunday morning. The facility is also known as the Yavoriv military complex. It's less than 15 miles from the closest border point with Poland. Meanwhile, CBS News has confirmed the death of an American journalist in Ukraine. Award-winning filmmaker Brent Renaud was killed when Russian forces opened fire near Kyiv Sunday. Another U.S. documentary filmmaker who was with Renaud was also injured in the attack. He described the incident from a hospital gurney in Kyiv.
What happened to you?
We crossed the first bridge in Irpin. We were going to film other refugees leaving, and we got into a car. Somebody offered to take us to the other bridge, and we crossed a checkpoint, and they started shooting at us. So the driver turned around, and they kept shooting.
Ukrainians continue to defend their country against Russian attacks, but they're losing ground in many areas. The city of Mariupol has no electricity or heat, and people are running out of food and water. Officials in the city say more than 2,000 residents have died in Russian attacks. To the southwest, in Odesa, residents in the port city are preparing for a fight. CBS News foreign correspondent Chris Livesay has more.
It's the pendulum of war. First, deathly loud. Then at once, a deafening silence. In the Black Sea port city of Mykolaiv, the morgues are full, mostly with civilians. These victims laid out in the freezing cold. Among those spared gather here, below an abandoned market, their childhood interrupted by an invading army, even though these are Russian speakers, the very people Putin says he wants to protect, says the mayor Alexander Senkevich.
I think the main idea is to kill Ukrainians as much as they can. It's complete liar when they say that they want to protect us. They want to kill as much Ukrainians as they can.
Human obstacles on the road to Odesa, the former crown jewel of the Russian Empire, and today, Ukraine's biggest port. It's a city half deserted. The half that's still here steels itself with anti-tank defenses and optimism, like this soldier who calls himself Snake. 15 days we've stood up against the second biggest army in the world, he says. It's weaker than us. Others fill sandbags where a Russian fleet could float ashore any day. Sergei, a plastic surgeon, is ready to stitch up combat wounds, even take up arms.
Russian nation, look at us. We're very peaceful nation, but we all have the brave heart.
Chris Livesay joins me now from Odesa. Chris, welcome. As you said, people, and we saw them right there gearing up for an attack. Is there any indication of when that might happen?
Well, today, British military intelligence said that Russian forces are advancing from Crimea and heading towards Mykolaiv, but to circumvent it and to come straight here to Odesa. So the threat is very real. It's something that Vladimir Putin actually called out by name. He called out the city of Odesa in his declaration of war last month. So people here have been bracing for a fight ever since. The president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, says that an attack here is virtually guaranteed. As to exactly when that's going to happen, it depends on forces in places like Mykolaiv and how successful they are at not just repelling the attack in their city, but possibly repelling the Russian forces altogether as they try and make their way towards Odesa along the Black Sea coast.
And Chris, as we reported, a strike Sunday morning on a military base near the Polish border left dozens dead. Only 15 miles from the border now. That's how close Russian forces are. Tell us, why did Russian forces target that particular place, and what is the implication of getting so close to one of our NATO allies?
Well, it probably has something to do with the fact that it is right on a major route that's been used for transporting anti-aircraft and anti-tank weapons to Ukraine. Those Stinger and those other weapons that the U.S. and other NATO countries have been facilitating. At that same base, it's housed NATO and U.S. military trainers and instructors over the years. but the very proximity to the Polish border, a very important NATO ally, does bring this conflict to a scary new chapter, one that is right on the doorstep of NATO. If those missiles hadn't been more precise, if one of them had strayed across into NATO territory, then we could have been looking at invoking Article 5, and all of a sudden this wouldn't have been a local war here in Ukraine, but it could have been a much bigger global conflict.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Chris, the mayor of Kyiv says that he's worried about a Russian chemical or biological attack. Is there any sense of how likely that is and what it would mean for the defense of Ukraine?
Well, it's actually something that the White House has been warning about for several days now. In fact, they specifically said that they suspected that Russia could be planning a biological or chemical weapons attack, but then framing it as a so-called false flag attack by Ukraine. In other words, when Ukraine would attack it themselves and try and blame it on Russia. I mean, it's all very convoluted. It's the kind of fog of war scenario in which each person would blame each other if something like that were to happen. One thing we do know is that Russia, one of the very first things it did in this invasion last month was occupy Chernobyl, a defunct nuclear site. And since then, it's occupied 2 active nuclear sites, essentially holding them hostage. So it gives the Russians a lot of leverage and puts the Ukrainians in a state of fear.
And yet every time, Chris, that we hear from Ukrainians, I'm always struck about the positivity that continues to exist. A Ukrainian official said Sunday that he thinks that talks with Russia in the next few days could actually amount to something. He said in a video that Russia has, quote, become more sensitive to the Ukrainian position. Obviously, Ukraine wants Russia's invasion to end entirely, but has Russia indicated that that could be a possibility?
Well, you know, there have been signs even in Russia that the war effort there is losing popularity, even on national television. You know, this is a country that's blocked out all media from outside of the country and also within the country, anything that runs counter to the line coming out of the Kremlin. Nevertheless, on a national talk show recently, a conservative parliamentarian actually expressed exhaustion and called for, you know, enough of this conflict in Ukraine. So there are signs that, you know, the Ukrainian resistance and the economic war, these sanctions, are starting to take their toll. For Ukraine's part, they expressed a willingness to negotiate and compromise, specifically when it comes to ending their ambitions of joining NATO. But at the end of the day, it really boils down to how much Ukrainians trust Russia. And right now, when they're bombing and killing civilians, while at the same time claiming to have never even invaded Ukraine, there don't appear to be any reasons for Ukrainians to take Russia very seriously. When we talk to people on the ground here, I haven't met anybody who feels safe so long as Vladimir Putin is still in power.
All right, Chris Livesay in Ukraine, stay safe out there.